Hey there, this is Jodi Clock, and welcome to my podcast. I woke up dead, now what? In our conversations, we'll talk about real issues that everyday people face should they wake up dead without a life after death plan in place. Join me as we explore the how-tos on preparing for you or your loved one's passing without breaking the bank. And let's not forget about those pets too. Now, don't you fall asleep. Hey everyone, thanks for joining me. This is Jodi Clock, and I am glad that you didn't wake up dead today. Today's podcast is a fun one. Boy, that sounded kind of sinister, didn't it? We're having a fun podcast because I am debunking, unveiling misinformation that has been placed in most of America's homes by a trusted source. You heard it here first, folks. Fact or fiction? We are talking about the Reader's Digest. Remember when you were a little kid and that Reader's Digest showed up in everybody's house, that little, 5x7 magazine? Well, not too long ago, they had a section on death care, and I got really upset about it because they were the nation's leading authority on everything, but apparently they didn't fact check. So, if you have ever stumbled upon an article promising to spill the beans on insider secrets on death care, this is what I read, and now I'm going to address it. What it's called is the 13 plus things a funeral director won't tell you. But as a funeral professional with over 35 years of experience, and of course a husband who runs a funeral home, and they've been in business for, over 125 years, I was more than a little concerned, let me tell you. Please note that I'm all for informed customers, but I am not into fear-mongering tactics disguised as helpful advice. Not so much. So, this article's self-proclaimed expert relied heavily on generalizations and lacked real insider knowledge. But this isn't the first time this stuff has happened. After all, a strong headline is what grabs readers. However, it doesn't necessarily promise accurate information. So let's just talk about my concerns. I know that I have a whole chorus of funeral professionals behind me that are standing up for this. So to clear the air and empower informed choices, let's discuss the 13 things a funeral director won't tell you, point by point. This article was written by Michelle Crouch, and it first appeared in the June-July 2011 publication. But it's been hanging around a long time, and it has surfaced several times online. So buckle up, and here we go. Misleading recommendation number 1. Go ahead. Plan your funeral, but think twice before paying in advance. You risk losing everything if the funeral home goes out of business. Instead, keep your money in a pay-on-death account at your bank. Boom. Fact. Prepaid funerals, especially since the 1980s, have become regulated. In today's pre-planning and prepayment environment, it is so difficult for the consumer to be taken. There are too many laws and regulations. 1. When a consumer pre-funds a funeral, it's typically placed in a funeral home-based insurance policy, final expense policy, or trust policy, meaning that all of these funding vehicles are transportable and can go to another funeral home, and there is a third-party fiduciary managing it. So I can't get my hands on that money unless someone wakes up dead. Funeral homes are audited annually to avoid such financial mishaps. There's big fines. Let me tell you, if you don't comply, you're not going to be able to take advantage of pre-funding funerals. A pre-funded contract is a contract between the consumer, the funeral home, and the funding company. So the consumer is going to get a receipt of where those monies are being held, and they can check on it at any time. And finally, backing all of this up, if your friendly funeral home goes out of business or is sold, contract is transferable. Now, here's the catch, because there's always a catch. The guarantee may be off, meaning that here at Clock Funeral Home in Muskegon, Michigan, we guarantee to do something for $5,000, and you go to Arizona, funerals may be less expensive or more expensive. So whatever is in your account is what you have to go shopping with. Now, some places, they may just honor the cost, and it never hurts to ask. And why would a funeral home honor it? Because it's paid for. There are many reputable planning funeral insurance companies. Global Atlantic, Homesteaders, FDLIC, and NGL are some of the leading pioneers, and they are nationally available. Outside of those, there are some trust accounts, and ClearPoint is probably the nation's leading fiduciary in terms of banking, using a trust rather than insurance. They are located in all 50 states, including Puerto Rico. And the beautiful thing about them is they are a niche. They only deal with funeral homes and cemeteries, so they never take their eye off the ball. Misleading recommendation number 2, drum roll. If you or your spouse is honorably discharged as a veteran, burial is free. This includes grave vault, opening and closing, marker, and setting fee. Many state veterans cemeteries offer free burial for veterans and their spouses. Fact. Yes, the above is a correct statement. The funeral home will always ask the deceased if he was a veteran or if their spouse was a veteran. The veteran is entitled to military ceremony, a flag, and a grave marker. Ceremony means the 21-gun salute. It does not mean services at the funeral home. The difficulty with this blanket statement is that there are not national veteran cemeteries in any town, so there's going to be driving involved. I mean, there are well over 100 in 44 states of national cemeteries, but many times you have to drive a couple hours to get there. The challenge is, in the communities where there are not veteran cemeteries, the deceased has to be transported, and there are costs to that. The other thing to keep in mind, or this is what people don't talk about, which is not included. The funeral home's professional services, which means taking care of the body, the transportation from time of death, place of death, to the cemetery, the casket, any printed materials, obituaries. The VA does cover one death certificate. If they would rather be cremated rather than buried, the cremation is not paid for. So once you understand what your benefits are, you can make an informed choice. And the only place you're going to understand that is by going to the government veterans website and looking in the death and burial benefits for yourself. Misleading recommendation number 3. Boom. You can buy caskets that are just as nice as the ones in my showroom for thousands of dollars less online at Walmart, Costco, or how about straight from that manufacturer? Fact. Not necessarily. While online discount stores are available that offer casket options, there are other hidden costs and other things you need to know. I mean, sure, go ahead. You can buy a casket at Walmart, at Sam's, Costco, online retailers that initially seems like lower prices, but then there's add-ons, and here's why. Delivery fees. Funeral homes often charge extra to receive a casket that came online or that came from someplace else. If that casket is damaged, that's not a reflection of the funeral home. It's a reflection of where you bought it from. And many times these places buy them wholesale in lots, and they are damaged. It doesn't mean that they don't do the job. It doesn't mean that they can't be fixed. All that simply means is do not hold the funeral home responsible if it isn't looking the way that you want it to look, because there is no guarantee like a funeral home would guarantee it. And also there are inventory limitations. You know, unlike a funeral home, and a discount store may not have a wood casket. They may only have a few, and then, oh, by the way, the delivery got delayed in process. During COVID, we saw so much of that. So, I mean, if you want to wait around for a casket to show up, that's fine. But stranger things have happened. So, hang on. We're not finished yet. Part 2 exposes even more myths of Michelle Crouch's article, but we're going to be tackling some real eye-openers on my next podcast. So thank you for not waking up dead today, and we'll look for you on the next podcast. Hey, if you're hearing this message, you've listened to the entire episode, and for that I want to thank you, and I am so glad you didn't wake up dead today. Please jump over to jodyclock.com and download your free copy of my family care plan. This guide will help those you leave behind should you wake up dead. I promise. Be sure to order my book, It's Complicated, based on a true story. Send me an email about topics you'd like to hear in future episodes. Until next time, thank you for not falling asleep.